Life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg. Race cars, lasers, aeroplanes. It's a duck blur. Might solve a mystery or rewrite history. DuckTales, woohoo! Every day they're out there making DuckTales, woohoo! Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck tales. Danger, watch behind you. There's a stranger out to find you. What to do? Just grab onto some DuckTales, woo! Every day they're out there making DuckTales, woo! Tales of daring, do bad, and good luck tales, woo! Not ponytails or cottontails, no DuckTales, woo! DuckTales for the NES is a 1989 video game, of course based on the cartoon of the same name airing at the same time. And somehow, it's remembered as one of the classics of the console, even compared to Capcom's other ventures for the platform. It began a successful partnership between Disney and Capcom, leading to other such highly regarded titles like Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, Darkwing Duck, Goof Troop, and the actual best version of Aladdin. Yet somehow, even among its peers, DuckTales has stood tall nearly 30 years later.
However, let's step back from that legacy for a second. This was in the early days of gaming, before anyone considered the possibility of re-releases. Times change, contracts change, and it was basically impossible to believe that this game would ever see the light of day, especially with a company as protective as Disney. Unless the license stays in the same hands all the years, like Star Wars did with LucasArts, these sorts of things just didn't happen. It's why JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Scott Pilgrim got delisted from digital marketplaces, it's why GoldenEye required a full-out remake, and it's why people rightly believe that you need to hunt down the NES cartridges to play these games again.
That is, until 2013 when Capcom announced DuckTales Remastered, a remake of the original game developed by WayForward. It was such a surprise because there was no reason for its existence. It wasn't an anniversary of the original game, Capcom didn't reacquire any Disney rights, in fact they were losing their Marvel rights at the time, and there wasn't any new DuckTales content yet. While I can't say which of the three parties pitched the idea, it's pretty clear to me that this was a passion project. Before I get started, let me get my background out in the open, just so you all know where I'm coming from. I think it's pretty clear I'm too young to be familiar with the original cartoon beyond the basic concept, and while I have played the original game somewhat, it was a pretty minimal exposure, so I'll be looking at this game as a game rather than a remake. Thankfully, based on an old 80s game, the story is incredibly basic and easy to explain. After the Beagle Boys attempt to break into Scrooge McDuck's money vault, the world's richest duck and his three identical nephews discover a coded map inside a painting leading to 5 ancient treasures. Scrooge goes out and collects them all, running into the Beagle Boys, Magica Dispel, and Flintheart Gold along the way to thwart him. But then Magica comes in and steals them all, revealing she set everything up to retrieve the items to revive Dracula Duck and steal Scrooge's #1 dime with Gold's help. Scrooge beats Duckula, gets his dime back, and the real One Piece was the dream and friends they made along the way. Yeah, it's a remake of an 8-bit game based on a kid's cartoon from the 80s, that's 2 layers of simplistic writing. The real draw to the story is the abundance of cutscenes, giving context to each of the levels and providing structure in the open-ended levels. I wouldn't say they're especially well written or funny, but that may just be me spoiled by the improved cartoon writing we enjoy in the modern age with the new DuckTales. But for whatever reason, all the goofs in the Amazon level get me. You know, the real accomplishment of the dialogue is the voice cast. Despite the cartoon series being over for 23 years at the time of release, they got back all the cast from the series to reprise their roles, or at least all the surviving members. Special credit to Alan Young coming back as Scrooge despite being 94, and June Foray as Magica Dispel at 95. Granted, that's pretty evident from their performances, but what can you really expect? A for effort from both of them, but that doesn't exactly redeem the rest of the cast. Aside from Launchpad, I don't feel anyone's giving it their all, not to mention how I just find the nephews and Webby's voices straight annoying. That's the fault of the original show and me being spoiled by the modern show, I know. That's not the only lacking part of the presentation, unfortunately. All of the original game's sprites have been updated to high-quality 2D animation, whatever you'd call it, a choice I've always felt the best for adapting traditional animation, and it looks great! At a standstill. Now don't get me wrong, the animation cycles are well done, they're fluid and bouncy, and you get to see them all the time because each character only has a few stock animations. Don't you just love seeing Scrooge's default happy expression when his nephews are in danger? And that's only one problem with the choice. Sprites are only part of the visuals, as all the environments are built using standard 3D. And they really don't mesh. The level maps just don't have the right shading or coloring to look cartoonish enough to match. They just feel like 3D models instead of an animated world. WayForward used the same style for Shantae Half Genie Hero, where it's much improved, so I guess it's fine here. It's not offensive to the eyes or confusing, just a little boring. Both of them still ain't got shit on Rayman Legends though.
But am I reviewing a DuckTales game or a DuckTales cartoon? There's an actual game I have to talk about here.
Of course, it's a platformer, platform across levels, collect lots of money hidden everywhere, even in empty air, beat a boss, and do the next stage. Scrooge's only weapon is his cane. He can swing rocks to collide with enemies in the few instances that's practical, but it's much more likely you'll use it as a pogo stick to bounce off them. Not only is this always available, but it's just more convenient, it's comboable, and it gets you to higher ground. Honestly, I don't know why the swinging option is even there. So you'll be bouncing around, having a joyous time being the richest bird in the world, but what are you actually doing? Well, each level has a small collectathon task that needs to be completed to clear an obstruction and progress to the boss. Whether it be the pieces to Gizmo Duck, 8 coins, or a fuel regulator torn apart by rabbits, each stage has one that must be completed. The question then becomes how much of a pain it is to complete. Well, in stages like the Amazon, where the stage is built to follow one path and there's a collectible around every corner, it's fine, but in something like Transylvania, where you have to go through secret walls to complete it, it's a pain. The extra collectibles do serve an extra purpose, and that's to make you really get the idea to explore. Hidden just well enough are various secret passageways, usually just to increase your riches, which, by the way, serves no purpose but to buy art gallery items, and to swim in it. No, each stage also has one heart container to permanently increase your maximum health. I'm not gonna say they're mandatory, the game isn't incredibly hard. No doubt you'll struggle with only 3 hearts, but you can do it with perseverance, especially if you're already retro inclined. I'd say the difficulty is pretty fair overall, but there are a few areas where that's not the case, the ending escape especially. If you don't think of a shortcut in the second you have to think, you will not make it. And of course, getting a game over on the home stretch means repeating the entire final level. Then there's the bosses themselves. They're not exactly exciting, all of them are incredibly pattern-based and easy to work around, but I suppose they're okay. But there's the one to ruin it. I hate the Terraformian King solely because of this horde attack. Some of the Terraformians bounce up in the stampede, and it's so difficult to properly position yourself to bounce over them. Unless you can somehow master this, this is not a fight you'll be winning without multiple health upgrades already. You might have noticed one word that I've brought up in this review a number of times. But. I have no small amount of positives to say about this game, but there's always some exception to the rule, and all those points do start to add up when they're entrenched in every facet of the game. It looks great, but the layers don't match. It's structured fine, but navigation can get tangled. The bosses are good, except for the one that isn't. It's not buggy, but then this happens.
Come in, Launchpad! I found something!
The music? Okay, that's the exception. The original soundtrack was already one of the best on the NES, but Jake Kaufman's remixes are phenomenal. They keep the original chiptune sound while still adding their own catchy and energetic flavor. The Amazon was already the best song in the original, but now it's just heavenly. Easily his best work. Now, just to make things clear, this isn't a Bionicle Heroes case where everything good is cancelled out by the bad. Actually, the game itself is quite good. I really enjoy playing it. I think it's a fun 2D platformer that doesn't require nostalgia to enjoy. It's a comfortable difficulty, and it's short at only 2.5 hours long if you're competent. That's a complaint for some, but it doesn't overstay its welcome and it keeps a consistent pace throughout. I like short games, so long as I feel a reason to replay it and get my money's worth. But here's the thing, because of all those issues mentioned already, I can't see myself coming back to this too often. Every once in a while, sure, but not frequently. It's a remake of a classic game, so that's already a tough act to follow, and a solid game in its own right, but one marred by just a few too many little problems. Maybe if this game did better, it would have led to Rescue Rangers or Darkwing Duck Remastered, but a man can dream, I suppose. And hey, props for this game actually getting greenlit. It couldn't have been an easy sell for all the reasons listed at the top of the video. It's nice to see these impossible projects happen every once in a while.
I'd say if you're interested in DuckTales Remastered specifically, then this is probably worth the purchase. But if you just want to play DuckTales in any form, your money's probably better spent on the Disney Afternoon Collection. It contains the original game, its sequel, 2 other great games, and 2 debatable ones. If you're just interested in DuckTales in any form, I'd recommend the new TV show. It has been great so far. And if the Disney aesthetic does nothing for you and the pogo jumping platforming is all you're in for, common opinion seems to state that Shovel Knight is probably worth it. Now maybe this should actually get me to play my copy.